Let me begin with a simple question. How many times have you begun something only to stop when it proved challenging? How many dreams have you abandoned? How many objectives have you left unfulfilled because you couldn't keep going? Today, I want to remind you of a crucial truth. The difference between success and failure isn't defined by skill. It isn't about luck either. The key is consistency or capacity to show up, even on days when it seems impossible. We've all been there. At the start, you're filled with enthusiasm and drive, and everything looks doable. But then the first excitement passes. Hard work sets in. Life intervenes, troubles emerge, and what do? We slow down, take a rest. Convince ourselves that we'll restart when we're better rested or when conditions improve. But here's the reality. That perfect time may never occur. Waiting for things to line up perfectly is a trap. The key lies in pushing through even when it's challenging. Consistency carries greater power than motivation. If you actually want to realize your potential, you must accept this philosophy. Motivation is like a spark. It starts your trip with energy and passion. But like any flame, it dies until you maintain it. Once the spark dims, you're left with two choices. Let the fire die, or keep it alive with a steady, regulated burn. That continuous burn signifies constancy. It's not spectacular or thrilling, but it's what will keep you pushing ahead when others have given up. Think of motivation as an emotion. Some days, you wake up feeling invincible, ready to conquer the world. But let's be honest, such days are uncommon. Most days, you wake up with excuses. You're weary, the weather's poor, you didn't sleep well, or you're plain uninspired. On such days, depending on motivation is worthless. Life is unpredictable, and waiting for the right circumstances will only postpone development. Consistency, however, doesn't rely on how you feel. It doesn't matter. Understanding consistency. If you're weary or overwhelmed, consistency asks that you show up nevertheless, and therein lies its strength. When you stop waiting to feel like it and commit to showing up, you become unstoppable. It's like flicking a mental switch. You stop waiting for the proper time and start creating it instead. You build that moment via hard effort and dedication. It's no longer about working when you're in the mood. It becomes a non-negotiable element of your day. Look at everyone who has achieved excellence, whether they're sports, artists, or business executives. What do they all have in common? It's not that they're continuously motivated, far from it. What sets them different is their expertise of turning up day after day, regardless of how they feel. They've made constancy their secret weapon. Of course, they confront obstacles just like the rest of us. The difference is that they've educated themselves to endure when it's hard, unpleasant, or when others might stop. That's the actual power of consistency. It establishes habits, and with time, the effort becomes second nature. When regularity becomes part of who you are, missing a workout or postponing a task doesn't seem like a respite. It feels terrible. So remember this, constancy is your biggest friend. It's not about being flawless. It's about turning up day after day, no matter what. It seems like a betrayal of oneself when you stop a habit that has become part of who you are. This is what sets goal achievers distinct from those who fall short. Successful people make consistency a vital feature of their personality. They clearly realize that success is about putting one foot before the other, even when it's challenging. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. Building this degree of consistency isn't simple. It needs time, work, and a lot of discipline. Discipline isn't glamorous or thrilling. Nobody will commend you for getting up at 5 a.m. to visit the gym or for staying late at work to finish a project. And that's absolutely okay. Discipline isn't about gaining accolades. It's about doing what has to be done, whether anybody notices or not. It's the driving force behind consistency. And like any muscle, it becomes stronger the more you use it. The more frequently you show up, the simpler it gets to keep going. And here's a crucial point. Turning up is half the fight. Most individuals stop before they even start. They tell themselves it's too hard or not worth it before they've given themselves a chance to make progress. They allow their emotions control their behavior, but you don't have to be like most people. You need to show up even when you don't feel like it, particularly when you don't feel like it, because those times count the most. Those are the instances that differentiate the mediocre from the exceptional. It's simple to show up when you're enthusiastic, when things are going well, when motivation is strong. But can you show up when life is rough, when it's unpleasant, when you're weary or frustrated? That's the genuine test of character. Passing that exam is where change occurs. By showing up regularly day after day, you develop momentum. Each tiny action builds on the previous. And over time, you produce a wave of momentum that drives you ahead. Momentum is a great ally. It helps you push through bad days and makes it easier to keep going after you've committed so much time and effort. Stopping feels like betraying all you've worked for. But let's clear something. Consistency isn't simply about putting in the hours. It's about intentionality. It's about putting in the appropriate type of time. Simply going through the motions isn't enough. You need to tackle each activity with attention and intensity, even when it seems like a slog. Consistency doesn't imply being robotic, it means being relentless. It's about wanting to improve, even if only a little, every single day. And here's another truth. Consistency doesn't always produce quick results. More frequently than not, the results arrive considerably later. It's like planting seeds. You don't see the rewards of your effort immediately away. But if you keep cultivating the soil, watering and nurturing, you'll ultimately reap a garden of plenty. Patience is crucial. Too many individuals quit up just before they're ready to see the consequences. Don't let it be you. Trust the process, keep consistent, and let time reveal the result. Why people struggle with consistency. Many individuals sow seeds but walk away when they don't see quick results. Don't be that person. Understand that consistency is a lengthy game. It's not about fast victories, but about consistent work over time. That's why consistency outshines motivation. Motivation could ignite the spark to get you started, but persistence keeps the fire blazing. This is what divides dreamers from doers. The ones who accomplish their objectives aren't always inspired. They're the ones that show up day after day, even when they don't feel like it. They fight through the bad times and make consistency a part of their life. Over time, this establishes habits that sustain people through the harshest situations. So when the initial thrill fades, when motivation wanes, and when you're tempted to quit up, remember, it's not about how you feel in the present. It's about respecting the promise you've made to yourself. It's about establishing the discipline to keep turning up, even on the rough days. In the end, that discipline is what will drive you to success. We sometimes deceive ourselves into thinking that reaching greatness needs tremendous efforts grant, spectacular activities that bring rapid change. We assume that if we can't create a large splash, our efforts are pointless, but this thinking is debilitating. Standing at the foot of a mountain and gazing up at the summit, we feel overwhelmed by the immensity of the task. The endeavor looks insurmountable, and dread and doubt enter in. We hesitate, create excuses, and quit before we've even begun. But here's a reality you must hold on to. Success isn't discovered in major life-changing events. It's formed via little regular activities that may appear unimportant at the moment. It's not about gigantic leaps. It's about modest, gradual steps that compound into something amazing. Too frequently, individuals wait for the right time, the big break, or a stroke of luck to drive them ahead. But if you spend your life waiting for those major events, you'll stay static. Real development comes from those modest steps, the ones that appear too small to matter yet, over time, lead to amazing consequences. Imagine ascending a mountain not by racing or jumping, but by putting one foot in front of the other. With every step, no matter how modest, you grow closer to the top. Day by day, progress could seem invisible. You may feel like you're stuck in place, but when you look back after months or years of persistent work, you'll be shocked by how far you've gone. The key is consistency. It's not about making one major effort and hope it gets you through. It's about turning up every day and putting in the work even when it seems like nothing is happening. Each modest move made regularly develops momentum and growth. And over time, such little efforts will lead you to success. Imagine sowing a seed. You water it, nourish it, and wait. On the surface, it looks like nothing is occurring. Yet under the earth, Roots are expanding, preparing to support the growth that will soon emerge. This is what modest steps feel like. Progress isn't always obvious, but that doesn't mean it's not occurring. Think about the tales of successful individuals you admire. They didn't wake up at the top of their game overnight. Their triumphs came from little intentional acts made every day, often over years. What the world sees is the glory, the plaudits, the fame, and the money. What they don't see are the sacrifices, the disappointments, the long hours, and the constant repetition that prepared the path. Small steps may seem tiresome, even dull. It's not glamorous to get up early, stay late, or perform the same activity every day. But inside that drudgery is where the magic lives. Momentum develops with the repetition. Picture a snowball moving downhill. It begins little but grows size and strength as it continues going. That's what occurs when you commit to continuous modest actions. They grow unstoppable over time. Yet, too many individuals abandon up because they desire fast results. They desire shortcuts and fast remedies. But true, enduring achievement doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from tenacity, resilience, and the will to keep going when progress seems sluggish. Strategies to force yourself to be consistent. Invisible tiny steps lead to enormous achievements, but only if you keep doing them. The instant you stop, momentum evaporates, and you risk beginning again. It's easy to feel disheartened when results don't arrive soon. That's when you need to dig deep and remember yourself why you began. You didn't begin this trip because it was easy. You began because you had a goal, a vision of where you wanted to go. That vision won't materialize by waiting. It comes to life via activity, through little, constant action. Embrace the process. Fall in love with the journey, not just the goal. The road is where you develop, where you're challenged, where you realize your full potential. Each single step is confirmation that you're capable. When huge results command, you'll look back and realize they weren't attained by a single leap, but by the accumulation of numerous modest steps. Those modest steps develop character. They teach discipline, patience, and a work ethic that will help you for life. Success isn't about luck, it's about preparation meeting opportunity. And preparation comes in those quiet, unseen moments. So don't underestimate the impact of modest steps. Don't be disheartened by sluggish progress. Each step generates momentum, sets a foundation, and puts you closer to your objective. You may not see the finish line now, but know that it's there. The only way to attain there is by taking one step at a time. Stop waiting for ideal circumstances. Take the first step today, then another tomorrow, and the following day after that. Keep pushing ahead, keep building, keep striving. One day you'll look back and realize that modest steps form something remarkable. Success doesn't come from jumps. It comes from sustained, purposeful growth. We all confront at the wall. It's not only physical depletion or mental weary, it's deeper than that. The wall is constructed of doubts, worries, and justifications. It's the voice that says, "You can't do this. You're not strong enough. It's too hard." That voice is resistance to universal force that confronts anybody aspiring for greatness. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't skill or luck. It's the capacity to face that obstacle and burst through it. The wall will come maybe it's while you're following a goal that seems too great, confronting an onerous endeavor, or coping with life's persistent obstacles. Breaking through isn't about sheer strength. It's about tenacity, fortitude, and showing up when every fiber of your being begs you to stop. That wall is made from uncertainty. Every what if you've ever dreaded builds up like bricks. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if they're right and I don't have what it takes? But doubts are illusion shadows of uncertainty and dread. And fear is transitory. The agony of failure may hurt, but it passes. The regret of never attempting stays much longer. Fear is the most pernicious aspect of the wall. It disguises itself as prudence, rationality, or common sense, suggesting that you shouldn't risk it, that you're not ready, that there's too much to lose. But fear's purpose is to keep you in your comfort zone. Growth, and achievement don't happen in comfort. They happen when you walk outside of it. Look fear in the eye and say, "Not today." Then there are the excuses. "I'm too tired. I don't have time. I'll do it tomorrow." Excuses are simple and pleasant. They let you off the hook and rationalize avoiding hard effort. But excuses are falsehoods. They're another tier of the wall, making it higher and tougher to break through. So how can you break through the wall? The solution is obvious, but not easy: constancy. Consistency is the hammer that chips away at the walnut with one stroke, but with innumerable unrelenting swings, day after day, hit after hit. You show up when it's unpleasant, when you're exhausted, when leaving seems simpler. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel. It's the struggle, the sweat, the persistence no one sees. It's waking up at 5 a.m. when all you want to do is press sleep. It's staying late to complete the task. It's pushing oneself to go farther, even without instant benefits. Consistency isn't simply effort. It's belief. You have to think the wall can be shattered. If you don't, you've already lost. Your mind is the most powerful instrument you have. If you feel the wall is too powerful, it will be. But if you feel you can break through, you will. When that inner voice grows loud and it will, you must choose. Will you listen to the voice of doubt, or will you fight back with your need for more? That voice of doubt is part of the wall. It's your doubts, concerns, and excuses attempting to keep you back. Your drive, your dedication, your desire, they have to drown everything out. Breaking through isn't about one momentous moment. It's about turning up every day, hitting that hammer of consistency, and refusing to quit. Because on the other side of that wall, that's where success dwells. And it's waiting for you. Each time you push beyond the discomfort, every time you transcend what you imagined was your limit, you chip away at that wall. With every endeavor, you emerge stronger. As you proceed, you start to notice that the wall isn't as sturdy as it once looked. It's not as uncompromising as you expected. Every struggle you meet, every hurdle you conquer diminishes that wall and strengthens you. One day, you'll look back and discover that the wall wasn't real. It was an illusion, a barrier you manufactured in your imagination. That wall is a test. It exists to determine how much you desire it. The power of small habits. It's about testing your capacity to go the distance, endure the fight, and keep going ahead when everything within you wants to stop. Most individuals stop at the wall, they allow their justifications and worries take control, and they walk away. But you're not like other folks. If you were, you wouldn't still be standing here in front of that wall, debating how to break through it. You would have already turned back, but you haven't, and that's the first step. When you face that wall, remember this. It's not there to stop you. It's there to test your devotion to your aspirations, your objectives, and your future. If you genuinely want it, if you're prepared to be persistent, push through the agony, and face your concerns, that wall will break. It has no option but to succumb in the face of unyielding resolve. The anguish, the struggle, those are transient. They are the cost of development and the price of grandeur. But the pleasure, happiness, and contentment you'll experience when you break through that wall, those are enduring. They make every ounce of work worthwhile. So don't stop, don't turn back, don't let the wall represent the end of your adventure. Break through it. Prove to the world, and most importantly to yourself, that you have what it takes to go the distance. On the other side of that wall lies everything you've ever dreamt of. When we think of success, it's tempting to concentrate entirely on the ultimate outcome, the major aim, the reward, the end result. We fantasize of standing at the pinnacle, gazing back at all the hard work we've endured. It's simple to envision what success feels like: the promotion, the accolades, financial stability, or the sensation of achievement. That goal pushes many of us to keep going. But here's a reality that is frequently overlooked. The result isn't everything. In truth, it's only a minor portion of the narrative. What actually matters is the voyage. The process changes you, prepares you, and builds you into the person capable of reaching the objective. From an early age, we're trained to pursue results. We think on the reward of sitting the exam, earning the prize, obtaining the ideal job, or attaining a life milestone. But if you simply concentrate on the outcome, you miss the greater picture. You miss the most crucial component of success, the path that brings you there. The journey is where development occurs. It's where lessons are taught, character is developed, and meaningful effort takes place. It's easy to grow impatient. We live in a society that prizes quick gratification. Everyone expects results today. Shortcuts, short solutions, and hacks to tackle their difficulties. But the reality is, there are no shortcuts to true achievement. There's no quick pathway to greatness. The procedure cannot be bypassed. It's in the grind, the daily work, and persistent devotion that the basis for success is established. The conclusion may appear gorgeous, but it's the journey that changes you. While the product is fleeting, a moment in time, the process is permanent. It's the long path, packed with hardships, sacrifices, and hard choices. That's where your genuine strength resides. It's where you build the skills, mentality, and resilience to not just achieve success, but maintain it. Success doesn't come to people who just desire it. It comes to those willing to show up every single day, even when the outcome seems out of grasp. It's simple to keep motivated while the objective is near, but what about when it feels miles away? What about when development is slower than you hoped? That's when the process becomes crucial. That's when you need to fall in love with the journey, trusting that if you keep showing up and putting in the effort, the result will follow. Too frequently, individuals stop because they don't see instant results. They labor hard for a short period, then quit up when the result isn't quick. Success is typically perceived as that one moment when you accomplish your objective. However, that moment is fleeting. It goes swiftly. Once it's gone, what remains is the enduring imprint of the process. The journey, full with its ups and downs, struggles and breakthroughs, is where the actual change occurs. It's the hard labor, the long nights, and the early mornings that form you. The process encompasses the sacrifices you make, the tough decisions you confront, and the difficulties you conquer. It's in this process that you realize your actual strength. Here, you build the skills, mentality, and resiliency not only to achieve success, but to retain it over time. Success doesn't come readily to people who just desire it. It comes to those who are willing to put in the work day in and day out, even when the objective appears far and the outcome is unknown. It's easier to keep motivated when the objective is within grasp. But what about when it feels far away? When improvement isn't as quick as you hoped? This is when the process matters most. It's at these moments that you must dig deep and remind yourself that it's not only about the final product, it's about accepting the process and believing that constant work will ultimately yield the desired end. Too frequently, individuals lose up when they don't see results immediately away. They labor hard for weeks or months, but quit when the result doesn't arrive immediately. They assume they've failed since the results haven't come yet, but success doesn't follow a set time frame. It demands patience and conviction in the process, even when the finish line isn't apparent. This is where consistency plays a critical role. Consistency requires you to commit to the process and show up every day, regardless of whether the final result is in sight. Consistency isn't glamorous or showy, but it's the key to success. It divides those who just dream from those who make their aspirations a reality. By concentrating on the process, you enable yourself to develop in unanticipated ways. And it's in this evolution that genuine success is born, overcoming procrastination. To grow stronger, more disciplined, and more resilient, it's the everyday acts, no matter how tiny, that compound and lead to the outcomes you seek. Consistency teaches you to appreciate the minor successes and the progress gained just by showing up and completing the job. You begin to comprehend that the result is a consequence of the process. The journey is where your character is developed, where you gain the lessons essential for success. This is where the actual labor occurs, when you find what you're really made of, your tenacity, determination, and drive. When you commit to the process, you become unstoppable. Once you accept the daily struggle and learn to appreciate the trip, nothing can stand in your way. The result becomes unimportant. What counts is the labor you put in, your commitment to consistency, and your devotion to the process, regardless of whether anybody notices. That's the beauty of the process. It's frequently unseen. People don't see the hours you put in behind the scenes, the sacrifices you make, or the obstacles you encounter. They only see the result, the moment of achievement. But you realize it's the process that makes it all possible. Without the endless hours of labor, disappointments, and failures, the conclusion wouldn't have been feasible. That knowledge offers a greater feeling of pride and success, one that extends beyond the outcome. So next time you get caught up in the result, take a step back. Remind yourself that it's the process where the true magic occurs. The process is what develops you into the person capable of accomplishing your objectives. It's what prepares you for success and provides you with the skills required not simply to achieve your goal, but to flourish once you're there. While you can't control every result, you can control your effort, your dedication, and your consistency. You have the ability to decide how you show up each day and how you approach the adventure. When you concentrate on the process, when you appreciate the journey, the results will follow. They may not arrive at the moment you anticipate or in the style you envisage, but they will come. And when they do, you'll be ready. Not just because you desired the outcome, but because you committed to the process that took you there. So don't pursue the outcome. Don't allow the result become your primary focus. Instead, follow the habit of consistency or chase the process. Because it's the process that changes you, that prepares you, and that shapes you into the person you're supposed to be. When you fall in love with the process and totally commit to the trip, the end will take care of itself. Accountability is a term that frequently goes undetected. It's not flashy or thrilling, but it's necessary. Without it, dreams remain just that, dreams. We've all experienced times when we make grandiose objectives and feel driven to transform our lives. We write them down, establish plans, and assure ourselves we'll remain committed. But then, life gets in the way. Distractions, sloth, excuses. Before we realize it, the objectives we once felt enthusiastic about seeing are buried behind a mound of unmet promises. Why? Because when no one is looking, it's easier to let things pass. It's easy to tell yourself that skipping a day or missing a step doesn't matter. But here's the fact, it matters more than you know. Every day, every instant is a building brick. When you miss today, when you sacrifice just a little, it could seem trivial, but it's not. Today becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow transforms into the following day. Before long, you've lost momentum. What began as a minor lapse has escalated into a total retreat from your ambitions. You lose ground, not because you weren't capable of doing what you set out to achieve, but because you didn't hold yourself responsible. That's the weight of accountability. It's the unseen force that keeps you on track, that pushes you when no one else is present, and assures you're going ahead even when it's difficult. It's simple to claim you'll remain committed, but it's responsibility that decides whether you'll really do it. We've all been there, confronted with the decision to push ourselves or take the easy road. Maybe it's waking up at 5 a.m. for an exercise, staying late to accomplish an assignment, or studying when you'd rather rest. In such times, no one else will know if you skip out, but you will. And that's where responsibility comes in. It has to come from you. You have to hold yourself to the standard you set. You need to determine that your objectives and aspirations are worth more than the fleeting comfort of making excuses or giving up. Holding oneself responsible is challenging because it pushes you to face the reality. It requires you to look in the mirror and confront the person accountable for where you are, the person gazing back at you. It's simpler to blame external events or point fingers at things beyond your control. But deep down, you know it's on you. You control your behaviors, your discipline, and your effort. And when you fall short, when you skip the effort, it's on you. That type of honesty is challenging, but it's vital if you ever want to be consistent, if you ever want to break through and reach the objectives you've set for yourself. To keep yourself responsible, you must establish standards that you refuse to compromise on. These requirements are non-negotiable. They are the lines you draw in the sand, the limits you won't cross. Whether it's getting up at a given time, finishing a chore every day, or meeting a goal, you set the bar and don't allow yourself fall below it. No excuses, no justifications. It doesn't matter how exhausted you are, how hectic your day was, or how terrible things became. Your standards are your guidance, and you remain faithful to them. Writing your objectives down is one of the most effective strategies to keep yourself responsible. When you write anything down, it becomes real. It's not simply an idea floating around in your head. It's a specific promise you've made to yourself, staying motivated over time. Write out your objectives and make them obvious. Put them wherever you'll see them every day, on your mirror, your desk, or even as your phone backdrop. Whatever it takes to keep them in front of you, remind yourself every day why you're doing what you're doing. Goals lose their potency when you forget about them. They become just another item on a lengthy list of things you'll get to someday. But when you see them every day, when you remind yourself of why you began, those objectives acquire drive. They cease being something you'll get to later and become something you're actively working on now. But responsibility isn't simply about putting things down, it's about action. It's about surrounding yourself with people who push you to remain on track, people who won't let you off the hook when you fall short. These are the folks who care enough about you and your achievement to call you out when you're falling. They're the ones that remind you of the standards you set for yourself and urge you to rise to them, even when you don't feel like it. Let's face it, we're not always going to feel driven. There will be days when you don't want to show up, when you're tempted to slack off. But having people in your camp who won't accept your excuses may make all the difference. The people you surround yourself with have a huge influence on your degree of responsibility. If you're among individuals who make excuses, who rationalize mediocrity, it becomes simpler to do the same. But if you're around individuals who push themselves, who set high standards and keep to them, that lifts your game. You want to be among folks who motivate you to remain disciplined, who remind you of your potential, and who won't allow you settle for less than you're capable of. And here's the thing, it's not just about people holding you responsible. It's about you being responsible to them as well. It's about mutual respect and shared commitment. When you know people are expecting on you to show up, it adds another degree of responsibility, and that's a tremendous motivation. But the most crucial component of responsibility is being honest with yourself. This is when it becomes real. You have to examine yourself in the mirror every day and ask the challenging question, did I do everything I could today to be consistent? Own it, accept responsibility for falling short, and then create a plan to do better tomorrow. This degree of honesty is unusual, but it's what differentiates people who accomplish their objectives from those who don't. You can't lie to yourself and expect to achieve. You can't shrug aside your failures and expect to develop. When you hold yourself responsible, something tremendous occurs. You learn to trust yourself more. You begin to trust in your capacity to follow through, to adhere to your word, and that confidence is vital. It gives you the courage to take on larger difficulties, to set even higher objectives because you know you have the discipline to see them through. Accountability increases self-respect. It's a proclamation that you respect your word, that when you say you're going to do something, you mean it. That type of integrity, dedication to yourself is what differentiates individuals who speak about their ambitions from those who live them. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Accountability isn't about being perfect. It's about turning up day after day, doing the job even when it's hard. It's about holding yourself to the standard you set, refusing to let yourself off the hook, and pushing through when no one else is looking. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can make your aspirations a reality is you, and that begins with keeping yourself responsible every single day. Failure is not the enemy. It's not some enormous roadblock thrown in your way to hinder you from reaching your ambitions. No. Failure is part of the journey, a vital piece of the jigsaw that gets you to where you want to be. But here's the thing, most of us are frightened of failure. We dread it because we've been trained to avoid it, to perceive it as a reflection of our flaws. And that's where so many people go wrong. Failure is magic if you have the bravery, the resilience, and the consistency to keep going despite it. Think about it for a second. If you stop when things get bad, if you let every setback persuade you that you're not good enough, how can you ever go forward? How will you ever learn? Failure is not the reverse of success. It's part of it. Every successful person you know has suffered failure. They've slipped, fallen, and questioned themselves. The difference? They didn't stay down. They didn't let failure define who they were or what they were capable of. They accepted it, learned from it, and continued pushing ahead. Now, I know what you're thinking. Easier said than done. Failure hurts. It stings. It can shock you to your core and make you rethink everything. That agony, that frustration, that doubt, it's genuine. But so is your potential to rise once you've fallen. What we frequently forget is that failure is not final once we leave. It's merely a lesson, a stepping stone on the route to achievement. You only fail permanently when you decide to quit trying. When you fail, and believe me, you have two alternatives. You can either let it consume you, let it persuade you that you're not good enough, or you can utilize it. You may transform that failure into fuel something that inspires you to be better, stronger, and more driven than ever. The issue isn't whether you'll fail, it's how you'll react when you do. Will you let failure stop you, or will you let it sharpen you? There's power in failure, but only if you can perceive it for what it is, a tool. Too frequently, we get caught up in the dread of failure, in the worry of messing up, but there are possibilities lurking in such situations. Failure challenges you to confront your vulnerabilities. It sheds a light on the areas where you need to progress. If you can stand tall in the face of failure, if you can keep going ahead even when things don't go as planned, you'll emerge stronger. Consistency in the face of failure, that's the key. It's easy to remain motivated when things are going well, but genuine progress comes when you keep going despite the setback. Success stories and inspiration. We generally find it simple to remain motivated when things are going well, but what about when they aren't? What about when you've given your best and still come up short? Those are the moments that actually define you. Those are the occasions when your constancy will be challenged the most. But they are also the times when you have the most to gain. If you can push through, if you can remain devoted, even when it seems like the world is against you, there's nothing you can't do. Failure is not a barricade. It's a diversion. Think about it for a second. Think about the moments in your life when things didn't turn out the way you wanted. Now, looking back, you see that it was a gift in disguise. Failures like that in the moment seem overpowering. But with time and perspective, you'll understand that everything was setting you up for something bigger. The greatest mistake individuals make is letting failure define them. You are not your failures. You are not your errors. You are not your setbacks or the missteps along the path. You are the one who gets back up. You are the one who continues going ahead. You are the one who refuses to be defeated. That's who you are. And that's what success is about: persistence, resilience, and consistency. Think about all the individuals you admire, the ones who've done remarkable things. Do you believe they got there without failing? Absolutely not. They failed again and over again. They experienced rejection, disappointment, and uncertainty. But what they didn't do was quit. They didn't allow failure to become the story of their life. They altered that story every time they fell. They got back up, brushed themselves off, and continued going. That's the difference. The individuals that make it in life, the ones who realize their ambitions, are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones that fail yet refuse to remain down. They are the ones who take that failure, learn from it, and utilize it to come back stronger. Every failure is a chance to progress. It's an opportunity to learn something new, to alter your approach, and to become better than you were before. But you only get that chance if you continue in the game. If you quit up at the first hint of hardship, you'll never know what you're actually capable of. A failure is a momentary setback, not the end of the journey. And if you can remain consistent, if you keep going ahead, you'll discover that every setback is building you up for a stronger comeback. That's the power of failure. It doesn't have to be the end unless you make it the end. You have the potential to convert every setback into a stepping stone, every step back into a setup for something greater, something better. So the next time you confront failure, don't run from it. Don't let it stop you. Instead, recognize it for what it is: an opportunity for development, a chance to bounce back even stronger. Final thoughts and takeaways. Don't let failure depress you or make you doubt your value. Instead, embrace it. Use it. Let it fuel you. Learn from it, modify, and keep going ahead. Because when you look at failure the correct way, it's not the enemy, it's an ally. It's part of the road that takes you to success. Inconsistency in the face of failure is what differentiates those who achieve from those who don't. It's easy to keep going when everything is falling into place, but it takes genuine courage, real character, to keep pushing ahead when things go apart. That's where growth occurs. That's where greatness is formed. And if you can stay the course, if you can remain consistent no matter how many times you fall, you'll look back one day and understand that failure wasn't anything to be dreaded. It was something to be welcomed. Every failure pushed you one step closer to where you were intended to be. Every failure was preparing you up for something larger. Every setback was part of your triumph narrative. Remember that the next time you stumble, don't let failure be the end of your narrative. Let it be the beginning of something spectacular. Keep going, keep pushing, keep believing, and observe how failure transforms into your best ally on the way to achievement. Consistency is the connection between your aspirations and your reality. It's the key that opens the door to your potential. But it's not easy. It demands discipline, perseverance, and an unwavering confidence that what you're striving for is worth it. So, from this day forward, make consistency your non-negotiable. Force yourself to turn up. Force yourself to do the work even when it's hard, even when it's unpleasant. Because in the end, the individuals who succeed aren't the ones who had the simplest way. They're the ones that refuse to stop.